Welcome to Superheroes of Science. I'm Stephen.
And I'm Sarah. We co-host Science from the Experts. Our guests are professionals doing cutting-edge science right now.
They're experts in their field discussing what they know best. So listen up and learn real science from real people.
Subscribe now and stay informed of our latest episodes and show your support.
Joining us today on Superheroes of Science, we are excited to welcome Adam Huffield. Adam is a senior lecturer in the departments of nutrition science and health and kinesiology here at Purdue University. So thank you, Adam, and welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So we definitely appreciate your time. And we're at that time of year. We talk about resolutions. We talk about making a change for the better.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it seems like I guess first it's because pretty much everyone is giving us advice on what we should do right now. And
Sure.
Sometimes that advice isn't necessarily the best. And so give us what are your, I know you have certifications, I know your strength conditioning stuff. Tell us some of your background so that we know so people realize that we found an expert that we're talking to.
I'm not just Joe Schmo right off the street.
Right.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So I'm a registered dietitian, licensed and registered dietitian. I also have an advanced credential as a board certified specialist in sports dietetics. I'm also a licensed and certified athletic trainer and a certified strength and conditioning coach. So over the last 20 years, I spent most of my time as a clinician, worked as a personal trainer, strength and conditioning coach with athletes at the pro level, collegiate level, high school level. So yeah, just kind of run the gamut on that. So I guess that's me in a nutshell.
Definitely qualified. I'd say you're definitely an expert.
Just so you have the experience there that we need to know. And
Sure. Yeah. And like I said, I completely understand with this this time of year and the interest in this. Having when I first started out, I managed a gym for a couple of years, so I know exactly what December and January is like. And hopefully, we can get some good information out there that'll keep February looking the same in the gyms as January does. Right.
Yeah.
So we want to keep people in. That's the goal, right? It doesn't matter if we're going to start something. It matters if we're going to continue doing it, right? That's the most important thing.
Well, how do we start something? I mean, it's your advice. Let's say that I'm looking at the new year and I'm thinking, okay, I definitely need to get a few changes here. But I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. And so what advice do you have for people? And like I said, you have the science to back up
Sure.
what you're saying. So what is the appropriate way to start this?
Okay. First of all, I think the most important thing is really determining what your goals are, right? And actually clarifying exactly what those are, because that's a great place to start, because any changes that you're going to make should be based on those goals, right? Mm-hmm. So that's going to be the most important thing. And then also being very careful about where you're getting your information. There's a lot of misinformation out there, a lot of fad diets that promise results in 30 days, right? And really, when we're embarking on this journey, if we're going to go ahead and embark on a fitness journey and try to improve our health, it's not something that's going to be improved in the next couple of weeks, over 30 days, right? Really, sustainability is the most important thing. So if you're considering any of these popular diets that are out there or dietary patterns, the big thing is looking at it and going, okay, is this something that I can consistently do permanently, right? So that's the problem with diets, is they're always short term, right? So I'm going to do this, I'm going to drop the weight, and then what? There's no plan after that, right? So then they go back to their original weight or original lifestyle, and the weight comes right back on, oftentimes even more, right? Because especially if it's going to be like a crash diet or a diet that's going to be extremely limiting. Yeah, we're going to see some quick weight loss at first, right? But a lot of that weight loss isn't really going to be where we want it to come from. It's not going to be coming from just body fat. We're also going to be losing lean body mass or muscle mass as well. So with that, our metabolism is going to go down. So if we lose the weight and then our metabolism drops, then we go back to our original lifestyle and put that weight back on. But now we have a slower metabolism. So we're probably going to be putting on even more weight than we had to start with, right? So that's the approach we want to avoid with that. So I think that's most important to get that out there first. There's some really good tools to be used, like the Dietary Guidelines for Americans, or MyPlate. MyPlate.gov is a website that has some really good evidence-based information that's really simple to understand, right? It's not overly complicated, right? We don't really want to get into too much into the weeds as far as, you know, how much protein do I need? How many carbohydrates do I need? How much fat, right? Because we don't eat that. We don't eat fats, and we don't eat carbohydrates, and we don't eat protein. We eat food, right? So let's keep it simpler, right? And let's talk about food, right? And so I think that the MyPlate is a really great place to start, really just some guidelines to looking at what you're currently doing and what maybe you could do to make some improvements that you could stick with individually, right? And you could stick with it, what changes you can make that you can make last over the long term. What ultimately is going to happen is it may take a little bit longer to see results, but those results will be permanent then at that point, right? There'll be results that we can actually retain.
So would you say that pretty much anything that says within 30 days, just avoid altogether?
I would, yeah, that'd be a red flag. Yeah. If it says you're going to receive your results in 30 days, that would be a red flag. Mm-hmm.
People are going to be bombarded with this stuff. It's now's the time you start seeing it, and it's just going to be all over it because they're trying to, hook people in real fast and get their money. And,
exactly.
Something you said, I would kind of like explained a little bit. Is
Sure.
You mentioned that when you lose your lean body mass, when you start losing muscle, if I'd go like a crash diet, now I could drop some weight, but I'm definitely going to lose my muscle. You said it impacts your metabolism. How does it impact a person's metabolism, the amount of muscle they have?
Well, muscle is more metabolically active than fat, right? So it's going to require energy even at rest. So the larger we are, let's say we start out at 200 pounds, right? And then maybe we go on a crash diet and we're down to 180 pounds. Maybe 10 pounds of that is lost as fat mass, 10 pounds of that is lost as muscle mass, right? Mm-hmm. So what's going to ultimately happen when we lose that weight, especially muscle mass, it's going to slow down the amount of energy that we're expending at rest, right? So we're going to expend a certain amount of calories, a certain amount of energy while we're exercising. Even if we exercise for 45 minutes or an hour, like a longer session, we're only going to be expending more energy during that time, right? Maybe 300, 400, 500 calories, depending on how intense the activity is. But what about the rest of the 23 hours of the day, right? That's where the majority of our energy expenditure is going to come from. And it is based on body size. The larger we are, the more energy we're going to expend. And it's also based on muscle mass. So if ultimately we lose, say that 20 pounds and half of it was muscle mass, and then we put that 20 pounds back on quickly in 2 weeks, right? Because it only took us 3 weeks to drop it because it was a crash diet. We go back to our original lifestyle. We put back that 20 pounds, only we're down 10 pounds of lean mass, right? Muscle mass, we're down lower muscle mass than we were before. Even if we go up to our original weight, or perhaps even higher, it'll creep up higher because we're not expending that energy throughout the day, right? That's the biggest chunk of energy expenditure. It's not coming from the exercise itself. It's coming from our, basically our resting metabolism throughout the day.
And that's our basal metabolic rate?
Very similar, yeah. Basal metabolic rate, resting metabolic rate, both very, very similar.
Okay.
I think that's a good thing to point out too. If someone's interested in fitness but maybe doesn't know where to start, or nutritional goals, is that you are burning calories.
Yeah.
You're not actively exercising, you're burning some.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we burn that energy whether we get out of bed or not, right? Just to be able, just breathing, just to keep our heart beating, just keep the blood flowing, right? That energy is going to be expended regardless. So that's going to be the majority of the energy that we actually expend. It's not the energy expended during exercise, right? So that's only going to be one small part of it.
And so how does a person go about, let's say I want to lose my 20 pounds. How do I go about losing that 20 pounds, but not sacrificing my muscle, but just dropping my % body fat?
Sure.
Is that possible?
Oh, it is possible, but we have to give the body a reason to hang on to that muscle mass, right? If we go on a crash diet where we're taking in very little energy, we have to basically break down body tissues to provide that energy that we're not getting from our food, right? And if we don't have a reason to hang on to muscle mass, if we're not participating in resistance training, then there's really no reason for the body to hang on to it, right? It doesn't really need it to survive. If we're not exercising, it becomes free game. Let's go ahead and break down this muscle and turn it into energy that we need because we're not getting it from our food. Now, if we are maybe being a little bit more conservative with the energy reduction that we're doing, so not going on a crash diet, but really being mindful about how we're eating and trying to match hunger cues and that kind of thing, and just kind of going on a very limited energy deficit, right? Nothing extreme to where we're going to feel hungry, but limited energy deficit. And then the second prong is adding in that resistance training. Now we're providing a stimulus to the body that says, okay, I need to hang on to the muscle, otherwise I'm going to get hurt. If I keep doing this resistance training and I break down muscle for energy, I'm going to get hurt. So I've got to break down other tissues instead of muscle, meaning it's going to favorably break down fat tissue.
Okay. All right.
So resistance training is going to be the key with that, yeah, to hanging on to the lean mass and not going on a crash diet.
And so, but I know she didn't mention cardio. I know a lot of times with what we'll do is we'll go on a diet and throw in a bunch of treadmill running or
Sure.
exercise bike, or we're going to throw in a bunch of that and just go on a diet, and we forget the resistance training.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not going to help my muscles at that point, is it?
Well, not really, because the activity needs to be very specific to what we're trying to accomplish, right? So if we're doing a lot of continuous movement, like aerobic cardiovascular type of activity, it's fantastic. It's amazing exercise. We need that to keep our lungs and our heart healthy, right? So it's very important, and it helps ward off chronic diseases like type 2 diabetes and heart disease and stroke and certain types of cancer, right? It's very important. So we got to have that in there as well. But if we are trying to increase muscle mass, or at least maintain muscle mass while we're trying to lose weight, or if our goal is to increase muscle mass, right, then the resistance training has to be there, because that's going to be the component that's specific to that goal.
So if I'm brand new to resistance training, let's say I've not received instruction, I don't know, but I'm hearing these different things. I'm hearing, in fact, I just read an article the other day about if you want to lose weight, start weightlifting. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. And I'm hearing a similar thing from you, like you need that resistance training. Where do I begin?
There's going to be some great resources out there. First of all, be wary about what you find online, be wary about social media. We want to make sure that where we're getting our information from is from credible sources, right? So finding a fitness professional that has credible sources, one that has at least a 4-year college degree and that has a recognized fitness credential is going to be a great place to start. And from there, the great thing about a fitness professional is they can help to customize an individualized exercise program, right? Because there is no one size fits all exercise program for everybody. So if we go online and we find something, we download it, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work for us. If it's not a good fit, and this again goes back to like the crash dieting too, it's not sustainable. If it's not a good fit, you're going to do it for 2 or 3 weeks. And then February 1st rolls around, you'll be one of those people that's still paying for your gym membership, but you're not utilizing it, right? Because it wasn't anything that fit with you, whether it fit with your available schedule, it fit with your current fitness levels, right? And it was something that was exciting and you enjoyed doing. All those things have to be there in order for it to be sustainable.
Well, and like you mentioned at the very beginning too, if it's not lining up with, if you've not given thought to your goals, and that's be not lining up with what you initially want, or if you don't take the time to think about what your goals might be.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing that a fitness professional can help out with too, because oftentimes maybe we don't really know what our goals are. We don't fully understand them, right? So, and a fitness professional can help decipher what it is that you're saying, this is what I want to accomplish, and then being able to translate that over to, okay, well, then that means we need to include these types of exercises performed in this manner, in a way that fits with your lifestyle and your availability.
I see.
It can be hard reaching out, and because sometimes I'm paying for a gym membership. I'm paying for that. I'm putting money out already. I'm not going to pay extra for it to meet somebody, but I love that. It's one of the first things you're suggesting, because it's not one size fits all. You do need right? We need someone that really knows what they're doing, not somebody. And what I found as someone who's in and out of gyms myself is oftentimes people, just because they appear to be in really good shape, doesn't mean their advice is really good at all, because it might have worked enough for them, and they did just enough right things, but they might even not realize what they did, or they're just going to tell you something they do and think, I didn't work for me, it should work for everybody.
And maybe they were just smart enough to pick the right parents. I mean, that genetics has a lot to do with it. So yeah, I mean, especially the way somebody's going to look. Nobody's going to, you put two people on the same type of an exercise program, and 2 months later, you're going to have different results. Even if everything was exactly the same, they're going to have different results. And a lot of it's based on their genetic makeup, and how they're going to respond to different types of exercises. So yeah, that definitely shouldn't be the main thing to look for in finding a fitness professional. So really the big thing, like I said, make sure that they're credentialed, make sure that they have the education. You can even look for testimonials from any of their past clientele, which is great. And most fitness professionals too will at least spend one free session with you to determine, okay, is this going to be a good fit? Because it has to be something that you were able to collaborate with somebody with and have a good rapport and a good discussion with, because otherwise, if that piece isn't there, then it's not going to be motivating for you either. So
And
that's where I would recommend starting at, and trying to avoid a lot of the pitfalls of finding a program online, or that so-and-so at the gym that it looks like what I want to look like. I'm going to ask what they do and then follow that, right? So avoiding those pitfalls will really save a lot of headaches in the long run.
I like that. And when you talk about a reputable and a good fitness professional, actual professional, I would say their goal is not to keep you as a paid customer forever. Their goal is to get you where you're in a place where you can be healthy, you understand how to be healthy, because then you're going to give good testimony for them, and they're going to get more clients.
That is exactly it. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't realize that. If I go to one, they just want me to, they're just going to take my money all the time. Well, if you go to a bad one, maybe they will. But that's why you want to look for somebody that actually knows what they're doing.
That's very true. It's very true. So, and it can be a lot more affordable than you think too, especially if you buy the more sessions that you purchase, it's usually going to come with a price break. So if you get a 6-session package or a 12-session package, that usually is going to be enough to really get somebody to understand a proper exercise technique and how to perform them, and also to teach them, okay, how you can progress this program yourself. And then after those sessions, then you're on your way. And then maybe every so often too, once or twice a year, you pick up another 2 or 3 sessions to say, okay, here's where I'm at. What can I pick up on? Right? Something like that.
I love that advice. I feel like that's an excellent way then to work in accountability throughout the year. So if you've set yourself up, you start off, you learn kind of some of these techniques, and then I know I'm going to keep with this. I want to keep with this, but I know I'll have someone else checking in with me and looking at my progress along the way. I think that's great.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That accountability factor is huge. So that leads to another thing too. I mean, finding somebody that wants to work out with you and has the same passion that, hey, they want to make a healthy change. Maybe we could do this together. There's many times fitness professionals will offer discounts for small group training. Right? If you got 2 or 3 people that want to do this together, it's not going to be quite as individualized, but it will still be kind of semi personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's better than not trying at all, I think.
Absolutely.
Some individual, if you're concerned about going on your own and you think to go with a friend, getting some is better than not making changes.
Definitely. Mm-hmm.
What I have a question about, okay, so what if I'm listening and I'm thinking, well, I don't think that's right for me. I don't think I want to commit that much, but maybe I'll just take a look at my BMI. I feel like we hear this term BMI and there's a healthy range, and well, my BMI says this. And so I don't need to talk to a fitness professional. I'm going to shoot for this BMI. So is that a fair place to start, or what do I need to know about that?
Well, let's first discuss what BMI is, right? BMI is a great tool for looking at large populations, right? If you're going to look at 10,000 people, and within those 10,000 people, if we define what all their BMIs are, we're going to have a pretty good idea with that large group that those that are going to be 25 and to 29.9 are going to be overweight. Those are going to be 30 and up are going to be obese, right? But when it comes down to the individual, the BMI doesn't really mean a whole lot, because really it's just height and weight. It doesn't account for a body composition, which is going to be the big thing, right? So your body composition is going to be even more descriptive about really our health, and give us more information as where we want to go with our fitness programming. And it's going to help us determine goals as well. So body composition comes down to really two different compartments, right? We break down the body into either fat mass or muscle mass, and that's really it. So if we do a body composition test, it's going to give us a baseline measurement to tell us, okay, maybe our BMI says that we're overweight, but in fact, maybe we've been exercising, and so we have a little bit more muscle mass. So maybe that extra weight is attributed to muscle mass, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing, but BMI might tell us, okay, you're overweight. So body composition is much more descriptive, and a fitness professional can certainly help out with that.
So a body composition test, you said. What's that involve?
Okay, so a body composition test can be anything from bioelectrical impedance analysis, which is, you might have seen these like little scales or whatever that have like the little electrodes on it, right? Or you hold the thing out here like this, and it sends this low level electrical current through your body, and it's measuring the resistance to that current. It's not a current that you're going to feel or anything like that. There's a lot of, I don't really like this method because there's a lot of inconsistencies with it. The method that I prefer to use, and I've been using for over 20 years, is a skin-fold caliper method. Okay. So we basically take anywhere from 3 to 9 different sites on the body and grab a skin fold and measure the thickness of that, right? And then we can put it into a calculation that's going to give us an estimation of body composition. So, and in the proper hands, somebody who's skilled, this is actually a very reliable method.
And where would I go to get one of these done?
Pretty much any fitness professional that is credentialed should be able to do that for you. There's other methods as well that are usually reserved for athletes, like dual energy X-ray absorptiometry or a DEXA scan, right? It's going to be a little bit more accurate. They also, for the general individual, it's probably going to cost about $1,200 for that. So a little out of reach, right? The skin fold analysis, skin fold analysis should be a part of any sort of a fitness assessment. And most gyms that have any fitness professionals that you might be considering interviewing for that you're going to hire, right? They should give you those that free session, which would involve a fitness assessment, usually helping you define your goals. And they take you through a battery of tests that tells you, okay, well, you're low on your cardiorespiratory fitness, but you're good on your lower body muscular strength. Basically, it tells you where your strengths and your weaknesses are so that they can help to individualize that program to help bring up those weaknesses. And it should also involve a body composition test as well.
Excellent. Yeah, I like that. I like the way you described a BMI is really good for using for large groups, high number of people, and not an individual assessment. I mean, especially you got muscle. It's according to my BMI, I am obese at 16% body fat, and so it's like, we're not going to play that one.
Sure, exactly. Yeah, BMI is not good for athletes. It's frustrating.
Yeah. So I kind of steer clear of anyone who uses BMI as an individual thing.
Yeah. Good plan.
Yeah.
Well, what is I guess if we could make one dietary change, thinking of wanting to be maybe be more active, even if it's just walking something, just one dietary change, what would you recommend?
Can I give you two?
Open-ended because it's dependent on the person. So I feel like that's a tough one.
Okay. So my two I have to give you two because I can't separate the two out, right? Number one is going to be what your mom told you growing up. Eat your fruits and vegetables, right? Those are where our nutrient density comes from. That's where all of the nutrients and phytochemicals and all these things that are going to help us unlock the energy out of our food so that we can put that energy into our resistance training program and get better results, right? And not only that, it helps protect against cancer and all sorts of heart disease, all sorts of different chronic illnesses, right? So that's number one, right? And I wouldn't be a good dietitian if I didn't tell you to eat your fruits and vegetables, right? So that's got to be number one. The second thing when we're looking at body recomposition or changing whether we want to increase muscle mass or decrease body fat, I find is that looking at your liquid calories. Okay, because liquid calories we get energy in through our liquid calories, but they don't fill us up. They don't make us feel full. They don't really do a whole lot for us other than add extra calories that's going to make it more difficult for us to achieve our goals, right? So things like you look at if you wake up in the morning, you've got a Starbucks habit with the lattes or whatever, right? And maybe we go through 2 or 3 different sugar pops through the day, right? Maybe we have a few alcoholic drinks or whatever, right? Maybe some smoothies, whatever it is. Those liquid calories can really add up to a lot and make it really difficult to achieve our goals. So that's one place that I really like to start is go ahead and just do a self-evaluation. How many liquid calories are you getting in? And do you think, and for some people, maybe they can't. And there's nothing wrong with it. If you've got that Starbucks habit that you're just like, I've got to keep this in, then find a way to keep it in, right? There's nothing wrong with it. There's no bad foods. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that, evaluate those calories that you're taking in that might be, coming in the liquid form and seeing what you might be able to trim out of there first. Usually, if you can trim some of those out, you won't feel like you made any change as far as like hunger levels or feeling deprived or anything. And you start seeing a lot of results because of that. Very simple change.
I think that is a very simple change. And I love that you're saying, if I have to have whatever it is, if it's your Starbucks habit, if it's, whatever, that's fine. Find a way to work it in. I love that advice because I think ultimately, that's what's going to help you stick with something. If you know that you can have anything,
yeah.
I just have to, I guess, budget what it is I want to.
It's a great word to use. Yeah, budget it in. Just if that's something that you like that you enjoy. I delivered pizzas all through college, so and I got to have my pizza fix every so often. So it's just something I'm not going to give up. I love it. Yeah. So why should we, right? Why?
Absolutely.
We eat for multiple reasons. We don't eat just to fuel us. We eat for social reasons. We eat because it makes us feel better. We eat when we get together with family. So I don't like the idea of stigmatizing any food, saying that food's bad. If you like it, eat it. Find a way to get it in there, right? Just focus on those fruits and veggies.
I love that.
You said fruits and veggies, which it seems like fruits got kind of a bad rap because there's so much sugar in fruit. I shouldn't have much fruit. Is this legit?
Well, not necessarily too, because especially if we're eating the whole fruit juice basically is like concentrated fructose, concentrated fruit sugar, right? But if we're eating the whole fruit, we're actually getting in fiber in there as well, which helps slow down the absorption of that, right? So you're not going to get those big spikes, as far as your blood glucose going up, that kind of thing. So it'll help slow that the absorption of it. So yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with fruits.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I'm glad you brought it. It's the fruit juice is what's really concentrated, and yeah, they tend to even have added sugar in those sometimes too.
Yes, yeah, they can.
So it's I don't know why you would make it even sweeter than it is.
I don't know.
Well, cranberry juice, you kind of have to. Cranberry juice without sugar, and it's pretty awful. So
this is true. That straight up is a bit dry.
Yeah.
This is excellent. I love this advice. This is I like this going into the
Great.
So we talk about finding a fitness professional and things like this. Let's say I've not been to a gym before, and
Okay.
I don't go to gym, and the people that do, I mean, they know what they're doing. That's really intimidating. I mean, I don't want to go lift weights and stuff. And these people are very intimidating. And if the treadmills, it's like, yeah, this, really scrawny people can run. Okay, fine. I don't want to be there pounding next to them, sweating. And
Sure.
I'm a little self-conscious. And so I'm going to be a little nervous about that. And so how do I either overcome that, or how do I find a health professional, someone to coach me along if I'm not in that world?
Sure. Yeah. There's so many different fitness facilities that are out there that if you've never been to one before, just try them out. Usually they'll offer a free week pass, something like that. And if you get the vibe that you're not comfortable in there, there's always another facility, right? There's niche facilities in there for everybody. So you don't necessarily have to be in there working out next to in a gym that's got the heavy metal music blasting and chalk flying through the air and people grunting and screaming. That's not really inviting for a whole lot of people, right? So, but there's most of the time there's going to be another option that maybe you do feel more comfortable with. And when you do sign up for a gym membership, usually they should introduce you to, oftentimes they'll have fitness professionals that'll be working on the floor, right? And they'll bring any new potential new person to the gym, should be introduced to them by the membership services. So they should introduce you to at least one person. I know the gyms that I've worked at before have usually had a wall that had pictures of the fitness professionals on the wall, had all their credentials on there, usually had some testimonials on there as well. And a lot of them will also have certain niches that they like to work with, right? So you kind of read through some of those, or see if it's a good fit in that manner as well.
Oh, that's cool.
They usually
That was in the movies.
What's that?
Oh, that just happened in the movies. I didn't know it really happened.
Yeah, absolutely does.
Now that you mentioned that, I was visiting some family, and I had visited one of these gyms that my family frequents, and I remember this now. They did have a wall with that. They had these pictures. Completely forgot about that until you started describing that, but that was nice to see, like you were saying, what they're kind of like, I like working with.
Yeah.
They all had a different thing that they liked. I thought, well, that's really nice that you can kind of see them before they might see you. And
Exactly. Yeah. And personalities have to match too. If you're not somebody who's motivated by the drill instructor type, they're not all that way. So, there's different types of personalities. So it's really is finding a match, and it may not happen right away, but that's why those free sessions are almost always offered.
That's awesome. Like I said, I thought that stuff just happened in movies. I didn't know it was real.
Yep, definitely is.
Learned something. I'm embarrassed to admit it too, but I learned something.
That's great.
But it's intimidating. It's intimidating, and I'm in halfway decent shape myself, I think, but a lot of anxiety about going into a big gym type place.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't know what to do, wouldn't know the rules, I wouldn't know anybody. A lot of anxiety.
Sure. Another thing to remember too is that everyone that was in there has always been in your shoes at some point, right? Everybody that's in the gym that looks like they know what they're doing and they're running the place, they walked into the gym for the first time one day too. There was a point. So
that's really good to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm.
You work with like professional athletes and stuff though?
In the past.
Okay. Is that, I assume is that very different than like average Joe?
Not really. Well, it depends. When you're working as a strength and conditioning coach with the team, the kind of nice thing is that you have a captive audience, right? They can't. So it's not really about making a sale, right? And trying to increase your clientele. You've got them there, right? And they've got to do what you want them to do, whether they like it or not, even though you've got their best interests in mind, right? Whereas you might have some clients. I know I'll never forget one client that I had that bought 12 sessions from me, and he was just back from Afghanistan. And so I assumed that he was and maybe this is wrong of me to make an assumption as far as his current fitness level, but about 20 minutes into the workout, he said, I've got to go out to the car. He went out to the car, and another member came in and says, your client's out there throwing up.
Oh.
By the time I went outside, to check on him, he was gone, and I'd never heard from him again. So
Well,
yeah, mistakes were made.
Well, it's part of your learning process too.
Exactly. Yeah. That was a long time ago when I was very green. So
One of the podcasts I listen to, I hear about some of those sometimes, and it's kind of entertaining because it didn't happen to me. But what you're saying is you have to find the right fit. That it's the podcast I listen to is with the training professionals. That's what they're saying. They constantly drive that in. You have to find the right fit, and most of them aren't some kind of drill sergeant that's going to make you do things, and they're there to help you on your journey to becoming a better you.
That's exactly it. Yep, exactly.
Big thing in our group here at work that we like to say. I think Sarah, I don't know if it's Cameron, you or Bill first, but be kind to your future self.
yes.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great saying. Yeah.
So we have to remind each other of that, which falls back to where you talked about accountability. I mean, sometimes doing something with someone isn't necessarily, they're not necessarily holding you accountable, but you're holding yourself accountable because you're doing it with them.
Yep.
I don't know how many times that I've planned on working out with people, and I thought, man, I don't really feel like it, but oh wait, they're gonna be there. Okay, I go. Then afterwards, all of a sudden I feel like $1 million, but yeah, I did this. This felt great. I'm so glad I did this. I would not have if someone wasn't planning on meeting me there.
Yeah.
That's a great point that you just mentioned there too. And going back to that sort of gym intimidation, right? Being intimidated going into the gym. Another great place to start would be group fitness classes. Right? Because fitness classes, by going to those, they'll often have, same classes 3 times a week or something like that. After a short amount of time, you start to get to know people. It becomes social. And then there's that accountability factor there too. So, if suddenly you're not there, people are going to question, why weren't they there? They might call you up, but everything okay? Why aren't you there? Then you kind of realize, wait a second, I was expected to be there. So people are counting on me. So I'm going to be back there the next time. So it's a great way to do it too. Great way to build that accountability.
Mm-hmm. And I just think we need that to make a change in our life. It's hard to do things by yourself. And so some sort of support, whether it's a group, like you said, or a partner or a trainer, starting right off with a trainer, which I think would be the best advice, because why not get your information? That's why we do science from experts. I mean, why not get your information from an expert that's going to help you to do it the safely as possible? Because making a change sometimes it can be dangerous to a point. You can really hurt yourself as someone who's had a herniated disc because he thought he was way too macho and lifting deadlifts, but without having the right form.
That's the key thing too. Is remembering that exercise, no matter what, exercise should never cause an injury, right? What it should do at best, if it's programmed correctly, it should prevent injuries, right? Or at least help prevent injuries. It should help us move better. Right. So different movements that we do throughout the day. And this is the way I do a lot of my programming, is based around human movements rather than exercises. So no matter who it is, whether I'm training an 80-year-old or if I'm training a 12-year-old, they're going to squat, they're going to hinge, they're going to push, they're going to pull, they're going to lunge, they're going to carry, we're going to twist, and we're going to do some sort of a stabilization exercise, an anti-rotation exercise. So all those have to be there for a complete program for me, for the way that I program. It just helps somebody become a better human being.
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense. All right. What about this? I'm new. I've listened to this. Okay, I'm going to start this. I haven't exercised in a while. I exercise and I wake up the next day and I can't get out of bed because I hurt. So exercise hurt me and it's not supposed to hurt me. Is it normal? What's normal? And what should I expect when I start this?
Sure, that's true. It's called delayed onset muscle soreness, or DOMS, we call it in the business, right? So, and it's going to happen. So just recognize it's going to happen. That's why we want to scale it too, right? Because we want to make sure that the exercise level is appropriate. So it's not so bad that you have to grab the top of your car and pull yourself up because your legs are not going to work. You're not going to get out any other way, right? That's excessive, right? We don't want to see that happen. It's going to be there a little bit, but ultimately the best way to get rid of DOMS is to be consistent with working out, right? Where we're exercising for a few weeks, that's those same exercises that we're doing, even if we're progressing them, they're not going to lead to the same level of excessive soreness the next day, or even the day after that, or if you really did it the day after that, right? So the consistency is going to be the big thing.
Very good. Yeah.
It's going to happen if you haven't in a while. And I know my wife and I decided to try a CrossFit class.
Sure.
Other than squatting down to pick something up, I don't think I've ever done a squat in my life. And of course, we jump in, and myself being a competitive individual, we'll just say, over 100 squats in that 20, 30 minutes. I'm keeping up with everybody else. And it's been a week trying to figure out how to sit on a toilet because I'm
Yep.
So starting off a little more reserved would be a better choice in hindsight.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's again where the fitness professional is going to come in. They're going to be able to assess where your current level's at and what is acceptable for you, so that you're not experiencing those extreme levels of soreness, because that will chase people away too.
Yeah.
Right. If it's affecting your day to day afterward, and if you're not aware that it's going to go away, or that maybe the level of exercise is excessive and it just keeps compounding, so you're constantly sore, constantly aching all the time, no wonder why you're going to quit. Right.
Mm-hmm. That just reminds me, my daughter we do some exercises together about once a week. And so I started working with her on lunges, and she went to she does cross country conditioning. And then they had them start doing some lunges, and she had been doing these for a few weeks with me and actually she had even stopped feeling the soreness. She was kind of getting used to doing these, but her friends, she was doing them, and her friends looked at her and said, "How are you doing this?" And she said, "Well, I do this every week with my mom." But she said the next day they were all really sore, and they went to the trainer, and my daughter said, "I'm so glad I knew that, or else I would have thought there was something really wrong."
Sure. Yeah.
She was trying to tell them this is normal. It'll pass. You'll get over it. They thought they'd really injured their legs. And I thought that's.
Yep. It's very common.
Well, Adam, we thank you so much. This is just fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Science from the Experts from Purdue University Superheroes of Science.
If you like this episode, subscribe, give us a positive review, and share the love. Boiler up!
Hammer down.